Hello, my name is Caleb Smith with the Rocket Miner newspaper, here to provide an update for January 22nd, 2021. And I'm pretty much going to be focusing exclusively on Western Wyoming Community College, its staff, Board of Trustees, and of course students. This past week, the college announced that it has prepared a budget reduction plan to go before the college trustees. Right now, the Western is anticipating that the following school year they will be facing a $2.4 million to $2.3 million deficit. Honestly, probably at best, depending on what the legislature does, and they don't know at this point. The traditional session being abandoned in place of more distancing of smaller stretches. There are certainly a lot of committee meetings this past week, and you can see the Rocket Miner website for more of those. Looking at such a big amount, that's sobering, and the fact that when it comes to the general operating budget, which is supported by local taxes, state funding, and student tuitions and fees. The amount that they're looking at, this is the area where they're anticipating a deficit, and that's a budget that is primarily reliant upon salaries and benefits. So to make significant cuts, it looks like jobs are going to be one of the things that get sacrificed. And that's we've seen that elsewhere. That's why we're seeing early retirement programs discussed by the county. We saw Rock Springs City Council approve one this past week. We've seen Sweetwater County School District number 1 warn that to get the level of cuts that they are anticipating, once again, we don't know the exact number, that salaries of teacher staff are going to be what makes up the bulk of what they'd be charged with trimming. As part of the proposed budget reduction plan, which will go before the Board of Trustees next Thursday, they're looking to stop 15 positions, and that would be 2 positions that are currently open. Those would be eliminated. There are 13 positions that they're eyeing that are currently occupied by staff, and those would lead to layoffs at the end of the semester. In the fall, other cuts were made, reductions to some of the employee benefits, reduction of travel, expenses, didn't have to worry about that as much in the pandemic, in addition to multiple open positions being left unfilled, and in some cases just straight up eliminated. That, back in the fall, there was a lot of public comment around the time when that was being discussed, and one of the things that was stressed was the importance of the experience of the students, being fair and respectful toward the staff, and considering the impact on the college as a whole, its ability to provide classes and other services, and its reputation. At that time, the board was able to make cuts that did not involve mid-semester or mid-contract, because it goes to the spring, layoffs. One of the things that was stressed just because of rotation, that if people were lost their jobs in end of November, December, or at the start of the new year, just because of the built-in calendar, academic calendar, there'd be a lot of people who may not start their new jobs in their chosen professions until August. And with the economy and the job market being it is, there might be some people that would most likely have to pull up stakes, and to at least get them through the current year was a priority for the public and was one that was followed by the board. Where we're at now, as the budget plan was presented last night and public comment was taken during a special virtual meeting, a lot of those things are true. Something that was said over and over again is that we know these are hard times, there are hard decisions, and no one has a solution that we know it's slam dunk, take care of everything. It's from my perspective, and I think it seemed to be one shared by other people there, that we want the impact to be as little as possible on the students and staff. I just don't sense, just from my perspective, I don't see there's much way forward. And these 15 positions, and they stress that positions were being evaluated just by label. They're trying to not make it personal. Kind of hard to, you can't entirely do that, but trying to work as much on metrics and what were classes. There were a lot of questions raised at the meeting, and one of the things about the just the way that the public meeting was set up, there was some answers were provided during the presentation on the budget. There were some good questions that weren't answered, and I hope that both me and other people who are out there and the college staff themselves are able to provide answers in the coming days, preferably by the time that the board votes on Thursday. Just talking about a little bit more information about what went into the decision-making process. College staff received a preview of the budget and some of the summary information this past Tuesday, or budget plan, and some of the summary of conclusions, but not all the raw data. There was a general call for pleading for more transparency, more information. There was also a bit of pushback from multiple people in the public. More than 100 people virtually attended the Zoom meeting. It's by my eye, when I was watching it, I saw at least 109. It could have been higher. That's because there were people dropping in and out the entire time. You know how schedules are, and honestly, there was little forewarning in this meeting. I want to quickly read the positions that the board has been, the College Board of Trustees has received the recommendations that to be eliminated either immediately or at the conclusion of the current term. And those are Director of Workforce Services, an occupied position, Director of Admissions and Recruiting, an occupied, a Director of Green River Center and Community Education, occupied, Assistant Professor of Dance, 3 instructors of mathematics, all of which were hired on August 16th, 2018, all still occupied. Instructor of English, also hired on August 16th, 2018. An instructor of sociology, occupied. A professor of anthropology and geology, occupied. Associate professor of theater, occupied. Assistant professor of communications, hired on August 16th, 2018, occupied. Business Information Systems Lab Assistant, full-time, occupied. College and Career Readiness Office Assistant, vacancy created by an early retirement. Custodian, vacancy created by an early retirement. I don't 100% know all the names, but there's a lot of places, as it was noted, like, well, if there's just one position in the sociology department and we're looking at getting rid of a sociology instructor, it's easy to guess who it is, or some other ones such as Associate Professor of Theater, Professor of Anthropology, Geology, Director of the Green River Center. These are people that if you plug that in Google, type Western, you're going to get those names. And I've had interactions with many of these people, and I find them that's across the board. They're well representative of Western staff and being caring, quality, good character people. People that will be missed, that have been making an impact on students, that will be part of their legacy. During public comments, there were pretty much all these programs that I listed here received people talking about their positive impact. A lot of people talking about how it's hard to get a good mathematics teacher, but we have quality people who work with us who are willing to take the time. There's some talk about the value of our on-campus instruction and how there are just some people that's just there. Everybody has learning strengths and weaknesses. Some are more auditory, some are more kinesthetic, have to get their hands on stuff, reading it visually, all that type of stuff. And on-campus teachers are able to provide connections that sometimes aren't as easily replicated through through just the virtual stuff. And we've also had these debates when it comes to education through K through 12. Other budget cuts have been proposed. Once again, looking at reducing somewhat the benefits towards staff, such as the contribution that goes toward health care or health insurance benefits, the stipend that is given to staff on a regular basis. Once again, travel, though, looking ahead, while we expect travel in 21 to remain low, the anticipation is that as vaccination efforts and more people become immune to the virus, and we improve and fortify our personal defenses in the community, there'll be more travel. There'll be more travel expenses. Even with all of these things, and around the line, just like I said, it's entertaining how there's some large chunks, like a few $100,000 for travel here. The block of salaries taken away. It's still anticipated, we were told last night, that Western will still be about $500,000 short when it gets time to pass the budget for the next fiscal year. It typically takes place in July. And at that point, the recommendation from the College Board would be to pull from reserves to cover that amount, because as was outlined last night, they don't see where additional large-scale cuts could be made. There might be just a little bit of adjustments around the edges, but they just don't expect the money to be there. That's a story we're hearing from lots of places. I'm encouraged by the fact that for it being short notice, for some of even the agenda of the meeting not being posted till that morning, and I know the Rocket Miners and others were working to get the word out, in addition to word of mouth and email chains and Facebook, social media, and whatnot. It was a very good turnout. It was probably the second most attended meeting I've seen virtually at Western. I think the previous one, when they were also looking at cuts, but that was telegraphed just a little bit longer. There was more time for people to recognize it was there. And I'm really pleased how people talked about, some talked about their favorite teachers. Some just were able to talk about whole departments, saying that I'm not even been a teacher or a student in all these classes, but each and every one of these teachers in this department made themselves available at different points in the semester to work with me, to help me put it together. We had past graduates talking about how they were better prepared for their careers, thanks to the people who have worked in the past and presently. We had some current students who relayed concerns about will they be able to finish their degree program? Will they be able to afford to? There might be some programs that won't be offered locally. They'd still be able to take it at another place, such as the University of Wyoming, at a higher cost per credit hour, and that could be a hindrance to some people. Not to mention just no matter who you are, if you're in a classroom with a teacher and their instruction, it's going to be different than if you put in a different environment. Whether you put one or both on screens, whether it's hands-on in classroom stuff, is going to be different than stuff that's replicated best we can digitally. Even if someday, and they're working on the technology, working on VR classrooms where it's so you'll see your classmates next to you even though you won't be able to touch them. There'll still be a disconnect. There'll still be some things that that personal touch means a lot. Next Thursday, the board is expected to vote on the budget plan, which includes these 15 positions, 13 occupied. The report presented notes that between the current school year and the last, that assuming that these latest recommendations are all taken, there'll be at least 26 positions that have been either chosen not to be left empty and then eliminated, or in this case, like I said, there'll be the 13 people who won't see their contracts renewed. As part of the recommendations, they're supposed to receive an additional 3-month salary on top of what they at the conclusion of the contract, and have 6 months of health benefits extended, either until they get to the end of that period or they find a new job, whichever happens first. It's hard to calculate the loss of one teacher. Honestly, it's one of those butterfly effects, multi-magnitude. You never know who's going to be in the classroom, and you might not know that that rascally kid in the corner who's especially troublesome. They might be the next Madame Curie, Einstein, Mozart. Fill in blank your favorite performer, scientist, mathematician, cultural revolutionary that we don't even know yet, but they're learning right now. And I hope that what we can do here and in future opportunities is express our thanks to our teachers, to keep the students in mind too, and be thinking about the impact on the community. Because it's not just in the name, Western Wyoming Community College. It is a exceptional resource, a shining spot on top of our hills that has done an immense amount to prepare the generation of tomorrow and do right by the community that it's nestled in. I have great respect for those who carry the Mustang name, whether it's in the library, coaching in the gym, the hardworking people in the cafeteria, residence halls, Mustang Central, Green River Center. I've lived many places, and I've been able to filter or have limited contact with more than one college, and this is one of the best places I've ever been. It's easy to forget that. It's easy to take it for granted. It takes cultivation. It takes investment. And where we direct our money going forward is one reflection of our values and priorities. I'm hopeful that the College Board makes the best possible choices. And like I said, that we do right by each and every Mustang. When it becomes available, the Rocket Miner will provide a link to this coming Thursday's meeting where the decision is expected to be voted, or the budget plan is expected to be voted upon. I'd point to you more online at rocketminer.com, where I'll admit I've been chewing on and digesting this information for the last 24 hours, but I hope to very shortly be able to get the voices of the people who spoke up to champion and ask questions and seek a fair and transparent decision-making process as we deal with the financial hardships that we presently face. My name is Caleb Smith with the Rocket Miner newspaper. Wishing you a good day and a safe tomorrow. Bye.